So, here I am, the dumbest, laziest queen in the entire palace. Everyone's scheming, poisoning, and backstabbing to climb the ranks. And me? I do nothing, eat whatever I want, nap whenever I feel like it. And somehow the emperor can't stop spoiling me. Yep, I'm literally winning at palace life by doing absolutely nothing. All the women in the harem are villains. I'm the only one, the empress, who's a clueless, sugar-sweet fool. At the New Year's Eve banquet, the Empress Dowager was reading out my annual performance review. This year, you ordered sweet and sour crispy pork from the Imperial Kitchen 187 times. This year, your catchphrase was, "Ugh, so annoying. When is the emperor going to die?" I want a promotion to Empress Dowager. Do you remember the emperor's birthday? Because you hadn't prepared a talent performance, you lifted a vase with your butt as your act. This year, you penny-pinched and still spent a ton of money, happily said one more bowl countless times and repeatedly went on and quit your diet. Your keyword of the year is lying flat. Keep it up, Your Majesty the Empress. Inside the grand hall, the atmosphere was subtle and painfully awkward. Palace attendants knelt in a dense sea across the floor. The emperor, seated at the head, pressed his fingers to his temple and looked at me. His tone carried a half-smile. "I'm only 20, and you're already thinking about getting promoted to Empress Dowager. Don't you think that's a bit rushed? Oh, come on, it's perfectly normal for a girl to have dreams." The current Empress Dowager took a sip of green tea, her voice gentle and mild. "When I was 20, I spent every day researching explosives and thinking about how to make that old fossil, your late father, drop dead so I could seize the throne and become Empress Regnant." The emperor fell silent for a long moment. "Mother, maybe don't pass that kind of experience on to your daughter-in-law. Your son hasn't lived long enough yet." Cold sweat trickled down my back. It was all because the Handbook of Proper Conduct for the Empress issued by the Imperial Household Department was too thick. I fell asleep after 3 pages. I had no idea there were senior nannies secretly recording my every word and action. Smack. My annual report was slammed onto the table. The emperor crossed his arms, sounding faintly aggrieved. "Explain something to me. If you didn't want to be my empress, why did you enter the palace in the first place?" I scrambled forward and dropped to my knees. "Report. My father is from Shandong. Our family motto is, of the 3 unfilial acts, the worst is failing to secure a government post. So I was sent to the capital to participate in the first imperial consort selection after the emperor's accession. I only meant to participate for the experience. I never expected that in this recruitment round for a position in the Forbidden City, for the consort selection, I would be the only candidate. The requirements were ridiculously strict. The emperor's criteria were: the candidate must be 166 centimeters tall, 20 years old, originally from Cao County in Shandong, daughter of the governor of Shandong, and her favorite food must be sweet and sour crispy pork. When my father saw the notice, he burst into tears of joy. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently. "My girl, this is a tailor-made position. A radish post carved just for you." I had no idea what a radish post meant, but I passed the selection smoothly and became empress. All the other candidates failed to meet the criteria and were eliminated. So now, in this enormous harem, there are only 3 people. The Empress Dowager, former champion of palace intrigue, master of poisoning, framing, and assassination. An elite emperor who clawed his way to the throne by defeating every rival in the succession struggle. And me, who started slacking off the moment I secured a permanent position in the Forbidden City. After a brief silence, torn between begging for help and begging for mercy, I bravely chose whatever. I pouted and deliberately softened my voice. "Your Majesty, I actually quite like your face. Please don't be mad." The emperor kept a straight face and didn't look at me. But sharp as I am, I still caught the corner of his mouth lifting by about 2 pixels. "Please. And you call yourself emperor? That easy to appease?" I was just congratulating myself internally when a eunuch hurried into the hall and bowed. "Your Majesty, The Xiongnu have sent a beauty. They respectfully offer her for your majesty's acceptance. My face fell. Unbelievable. The first time I try acting cute, and I get interrupted. What a motivation killer.
Wait.
The Xiongnu sent what? A beauty? Fantastic. As Empress, I'm finally not a commander with no troops. The beauty entered the hall, dressed in gauzy silk. Her figure was graceful, her steps light as lotus petals. Shyness and allure flowed through her eyes. Her waist was slender and pale, her legs long and straight.
Wow.
Absolutely stunning. Thoroughly pleased, I waved grandly. Make her a consort. Quickly, make her a consort. The emperor's face darkened. Clever as I am, I immediately understood. So I thoughtfully corrected myself. Right, the rank of consort isn't worthy of her. Make her noble consort instead. Title her Mei Guifei. The emperor turned and stared at me. I could almost hear his teeth grinding. Our eyes met. My heart sank halfway. I hurriedly grabbed his sleeve, trembling as I asked in horror. Why you're not going to depose me and make her empress instead, are you? The emperor froze for a second, then curled his lips, looking smug. Oh, are you that afraid I don't want you anymore? Not really. Whether you want me or not doesn't matter. I waved my hand, utterly unconcerned. I'm mainly asking because the underfloor heating in Jingren Palace is really comfortable. If I'm not empress anymore, can I still live there? I thought for a moment, then added shyly. I could squeeze in with the beauty. Sharing a bed would be fine too. The emperor's face darkened instantly. Impudent.
Guards.
In a flash, guards flooded into the hall, swords drawn, cold steel flashing so brightly it hurt my eyes. My legs went weak, and I trembled. It's over. Am I about to be thrown into the cold palace? One critical question. If I get sent to the cold palace, will my full benefits package still be paid? To my surprise, the emperor sneered at me and pointed at the beauty instead. Triumphantly, he declared, I'm appointing her as a palace nanny. That'll show you. The beauty standing in the center of the hall froze for 3 seconds. Then she burst into aggrieved tears. What did I do to deserve this? I'm young and gorgeous. Why on earth should I be a nanny? The beauty's name was Jiang Ruoyao. After I argued my case with solid logic and unwavering determination, the emperor finally agreed to grant her the rank of Dang, a low-ranking concubine. Her title, M.O. When she heard the news, Dang M.O. Jiang Ruoyao clenched her teeth and sneered at me. As expected of the empress. Quite the schemer, retreating in order to advance.
Wow.
So, in her eyes, I'm that clever? I scratched my head, then went back to my palace for a late-night snack. The next morning, before dawn had even broken, my maid shook me awake. Your Majesty, Dang Mo is here to pay her respects. I'd grown used to being a commander without troops empress. Having someone come greet me for the first time felt strangely awkward. Still half asleep and grumpy, I dragged myself up to get dressed. But the moment I saw Jiang Ruoyao, my irritation vanished. She was so pretty. Jiang Ruoyao sat in her chair with her long legs crossed, arms folded, looking at me sideways. I've paid my respects. What's next? Standing in front of her, I shook my head honestly. I have no idea. After thinking for a moment, I asked tentatively, how about you dance for me? Jiang Ruoyao slammed her hand on the table and shot to her feet. Don't think that just because you're empress, I'm afraid of you. I coaxed her softly. If you dance for me, I'll promote you. She stood up immediately.
Deal.
Jiang Ruoyao performed a belly dance for me. It was breathtaking. So breathtaking, I got hungry watching. My maid stepped forward at the perfect moment. Your Majesty, the Imperial Kitchen has sent mung bean and lily bulb soup today. I nodded happily. Lily bulbs are great. I love lilies. I had just lifted the bowl when a shadow fell over me. It was the Emperor, just returned from court. He lowered his head and gave me a sinister smile.
Guards.
Confine Dang Mo to her quarters. and prescribe a few doses of traditional medicine for the Empress. She clearly needs some adjustment. Xiongnu was dragged away wailing like a ghost. I stared blankly as the Emperor poured my mung bean and lily bulb soup into the slop bucket.
Sigh.
Petty man. So narrow-minded. If he doesn't like lilies, why take it out on the two of us? Xiongnu earned herself a full month of confinement. A month later, she re-entered the harem. This time, her target was the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager, you are truly young and beautiful. Before I came, I heard others say you were ruthless, that the late emperor died at your hands. I was terrified. Now I see those were just rumors. Her tongue was sweet as honey. In just a few sentences, she coaxed the Empress Dowager into smiling broadly. The Empress Dowager smiled back at her, gentle as ever. Very well. I'm going out to relax. You may withdraw. Your Majesty, I'd like to come too. Xiongnu's voice turned pitiful. Before I left for the Central Plains, the Xiongnu king instructed me to serve the Emperor and Empress Dowager with utmost devotion. I may be foolish, but I am willing to accompany your Majesty at all times. The Empress Dowager was overjoyed. Wonderful. I was just worrying about having no one to keep me company. Huh? Xiongnu covered her mouth in surprise and glanced cautiously at me. Doesn't the Empress accompany you? Well, I suppose the Empress oversees the entire harem and can be a bit careless. Perhaps such duties are better handled by a younger sister like me. I jerked my head up and promptly choked on my osmanthus cake. Cough, cough. By the time I finally stopped coughing, Xiongnu had already been eagerly dragged away by the Empress Dowager. I was left sitting alone in the pavilion, stretching out a futile hand in slow-motion desperation. Wait, beauty. Do you know that the Empress Dowager's idea of relaxing is dissecting corpses? Half an hour later, a shrill scream echoed from the underground chamber beneath Xineng Palace. Xiongnu sat collapsed on the ground, face deathly pale, kicking her legs in panic. In front of her stood a skeleton. Its flesh had been cleaned away entirely, leaving only stark white bones gleaming coldly. Her eyes were wide with terror. Her mouth hung open, but no coherent sound came out. Only broken whimpers squeezed from her throat. With trembling fingers, she pointed at me, where I stood at the entrance. You did this on purpose. You wanted to see me make a fool of myself, so you didn't tell me the Empress Dowager's hobby was this horrifying.
Ha.
As expected of the Empress, she looks innocent, but is actually calculating.
Wow.
So, in her eyes, I'm that clever? I scratched my head. You're overthinking it. I was just about to warn you earlier. You were the one who volunteered to accompany the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager is a transmigrator. I don't really understand what that means. But she always has strange and unconventional ideas. In my first month as Empress, I got into an argument with the Emperor and kicked him off the bed. When the Empress Dowager heard about it, she was furious. She scolded her son for failing to uphold proper male virtue. Then she took me to a pleasure house to admire handsome men. 8 of them, tall, short, fat, thin, every style imaginable. Drunk and flushed, the Empress Dowager raised her wine cup. Today we gather here because my daughter-in-law and I share the same husband. What was the next line again? Forget it. May he rot and stink. When the Emperor, face dark as night, hoisted me over his shoulder and forcibly carried me back to the palace, I clung to the Empress Dowager's hand and wailed dramatically. What kind of mother-in-law is this? She's basically my best friend from another generation. I secretly swore. When I eventually get divorced, I'm taking my mother-in-law with me. The Empress Dowager and I are extremely close. Unfortunately, I'm a coward. I can't handle her hobbies. Now that she had finally found someone who supposedly wasn't afraid of skeletons, her shared interest buddy, she was thrilled. Royale, why are you sitting on the ground? The Empress Dowager returned, holding up a skeleton. Its arms swayed back and forth. Xiongnu's face turned even paler. She forced herself to stand, eyes full of fear and resistance, her steps unconsciously retreating. Unable to bear it, I spoke to the Empress Dowager. "Mother, she's a bit timid. She's afraid of these things." The Empress Dowager froze. Her expression turned slightly disappointed. "Oh, I see." She forced a smile. "If you're afraid, then go back with the Empress." Hearing that, Zhang Ruoyao suddenly panicked. "Your Majesty, don't listen to her. I'm not afraid." She clenched her fists and shot me a vicious glare. "Don't slander me. We Xiongnu women are brave. I'm not scared of these skeletons." Before she could finish,
Bang.
Zhang Ruoyao instinctively turned around. A skeleton had suddenly toppled over on its own, slumping against her shoulder. Its hollow eye sockets stared straight at her. Pale finger bones rested on her shoulder, trembling slightly. The icy touch. The eerie atmosphere. Her expression began to twist, like she'd put on a mask of agony. Her lips trembled, but she didn't dare scream. "Hell, help!" Her voice quivered. Before she could finish, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted from sheer fright. The Empress Dowager hurried over, looking concerned. When she saw the skeleton clearly, she rolled her eyes. She raised her hand and slapped it hard across the skull, sending it spinning. "You old fossil. Even as bones you still like harassing pretty girls."
Disgusting.
Suddenly it all clicked.
Ah.
So that skeleton was the late emperor.
Sigh.
That's what happens when you don't treat your wife well in your youth. All right, after the skeleton fiasco and Zhang Ruoyao fainting on the spot, you'd think things in the palace would calm down, right?
Wrong.
What happens next is even more dramatic: late-night companionship, underfloor heating politics, mahjong therapy, and finally, the emperor blurting out something he probably should have said years ago. Let's keep going. In the end, it was the emperor who hurried over and ordered the eunuchs to drag Zhang Ruoyao back to her palace. After she woke up, Zhang Ruoyao immediately clung to the emperor again. "Your Majesty," Yao Yao was terrified. "I can't sleep alone at night. Could your Majesty keep me company tonight?" She shyly tugged at his sleeve, her eyes sparkling as she looked up at him, her face full of expectation and coy charm. The emperor remained expressionless, looking down at her from above. After a long pause, he suddenly arched one handsome brow and turned to look at me. "What does the Empress think?" I had just eaten a huge bowl of sweet and sour crispy pork and was deep in a carb coma, drowsy and barely conscious. I hadn't heard a word of their muttering. I blinked and tried to bluff my way through. I agree." "Well, yeah. Who wouldn't?" 3 generic conversation templates. One of them was bound to match whatever he'd asked. I didn't expect. The emperor saw right through my little trick. His face darkened. He ground his teeth and looked at Zhang Ruoyao. "Since the empress agrees, you may stay at Yangxin Hall tonight." That night, the lights in Yangxin Hall burned until dawn. I didn't sleep either. For one simple reason. The Empress Dowager's invention, mahjong, was way too fun. As I shuffled tiles, I shouted cheerfully, "Come on, another round." The Empress Dowager let out a deflated sigh. The 18 paper strips stuck to her forehead fluttered in the air. I couldn't help laughing. She shot me a glare and tore the paper strips off, grumbling, "Empress, you have no respect for your elders. I've been losing all night. If I keep losing like this, I won't even have money left to go watch handsome men dance." I coaxed her. "One more round. Maybe you'll turn your luck around this time?" She raised a brow. "Why are you in such high spirits tonight?" "What? Unlucky in love, but lucky at the mahjong table. If you're upset, just say it. Let me enjoy it a little." I stubbornly denied it. "I'm not. I didn't. Don't make things up."
Besides.
So what if I was upset? I'm the Empress. From the day I entered the palace, I knew I would have to share one man with many women. So I chose to lie flat. I told myself I could love food, love fun, love life. But I could not love the emperor. But love is like a cough. You can't suppress it. Through the half-open window, I could faintly see that Yangxin Hall was still brightly lit. What were the emperor and Zhang Ruoyao doing? I didn't know. And I didn't want to know. My chest felt sour. But I didn't show it. I just said breezily, "When it rains, it pours. When a woman wants to marry, she marries. He's the emperor. I can't control his heart." The Empress Dowager laughed. "Don't worry. The emperor doesn't like Xiongnu. I guarantee it. The son I raised has excellent moral standards." The Empress Dowager was always saying cryptic things. I didn't really understand. But the next morning, when Xiongnu came to pay her respects, she was holding her waist. Her eyes were red like a rabbit's. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. "Your Majesty the Empress, I don't want to go to Yangshin Hall anymore. The Emperor, he's awful." I felt awkward. Like sitting on pins and needles, like thorns at my back, like starving with thirst.
No.
Wrong idiom. What I really wanted to ask was, is this something I get to hear for free? But Xiongnu sobbed as she wiped her tears. The Emperor said since I couldn't sleep anyway, I might as well stand guard. The north wind was howling, snow was falling. I stood outside the entire night. The corner of my mouth twitched. Misjudgment. I forgot the Emperor could be such a jerk. I patted her shoulder and comforted her. All right, don't cry. I'll speak to His Majesty for you." Only then did she stop crying and look at me hopefully, like I was her savior. I sighed and headed to Yangshin Hall. But the Emperor refused to see me. So the following night, Xiongnu once again attended him. Or rather, stood guard. That night, the Empress Dowager had gone out of the palace to watch handsome men dance. No one was around to play mahjong with me. I lay alone in bed, tossing and turning. So annoying. I had insomnia. Before every night, I slept beside the Emperor. Suddenly sleeping alone felt strange. I wasn't missing him. I was just hungry. When you're hungry, your mind wanders. I climbed up angrily. "Servants, I want a late-night snack." Before I finished speaking, someone walked in carrying a food box. His tone was smug. "Humph. Without me warming the bed for you, you can't sleep, can you?" I instinctively looked behind him. "Where's Xiongnu?" It was just a casual question, but the Emperor exploded. "Why do you keep mentioning her? What am I to you exactly?" I blinked and obediently recited the standard answer. Handbook of Proper Conduct for the Empress, Chapter 1, Article 1. Treat your husband as your superior. That book is nonsense. The Emperor snapped. The last thing I lack is subordinates. I married you because I like you. I froze. I hadn't expected him to confess so bluntly. For a moment, the atmosphere in the room turned subtle. I lowered my head, not daring to meet his eyes. The Emperor seemed to realize he'd lost his composure. He coughed lightly, trying to ease the tension. I meant that. Don't you remember what happened in Cao County? New Year's Eve. Meishi Street. We ran into each other. His entire face, all the way to his ears, turned red enough to drip blood. Mother said that was called love at first sight.
9.
I finally remembered. A few years ago, on New Year's Eve, I did bump into a noble young master on the street. It's just that I was in a hurry to get home to eat gobera, so I didn't get a clear look at his face. And now I finally understand. No wonder 3,000 people joined the selection, and only I was chosen. No wonder my father said it was a radish post, a position reserved in advance. So the selection criteria had been tailor-made for me all along. The truth hit me so hard that I stammered.
Ah.
So the reason I became Empress was because you secretly rigged it for me? The Emperor was so exasperated he laughed. What else? Did you think it was because of your beauty and figure? Or your father's influence? That's such a blow. I wiped the corner of my eyes and sighed dramatically. I always thought our relationship was like in the storybooks. I was the grand heroine, and you were the son-in-law who married into my family. The Emperor was genuinely annoyed now. He crossed his arms and snorted. What nonsense are you talking about? Did that gobera go to your brain? I pouted and muttered under my breath. You like me, and you're still this sharp-tongued. Hearing that, he clicked his tongue lightly and pretended to knock my head. I quickly shrank back and pushed the plate of gobera on the table toward him. In a sugary, coaxing voice, I said, "Your Majesty, don't be mad, I'll treat you to some meat."
He snorted again.
"I'm not eating." Humph. I handed him a teacup. "Then have some tea." He lifted his chin arrogantly. "I dislike green tea." Humph. I lost my patience, tilted my head back, and gulped the tea down myself. "Are you done yet? Drink it or don't." At that, the Emperor sighed gloomily. "Can't you coax me a little longer? I've secretly been in love with you for so many years. Aren't you moved at all? Fine, I won't talk to you anymore." Furious, he flicked his yellow dragon robe and stormed off. Immediately, the palace attendants panicked and dropped to their knees in unison. "Your Majesty, please quell your anger. Respectfully sending off Your Majesty." It looked quite imposing, but for some reason I felt his retreating figure looked just like an angry little yellow chick. I was both annoyed and amused. I huffed lightly.
"Fine. Don't talk to me then."
"Whoever speaks first is a big dummy pig." 10.
"Fine."
I admit it. I'm the big dummy pig. The next day, while I was eating gobera, a eunuch came scrambling in, crying as he reported, Xiongnu had attempted an assassination while on night duty. The emperor's life was hanging by a thread. When I heard the news, I rushed toward the hall of mental cultivation so fast that I lost one of my shoes. The hall was brightly lit. The imperial physicians were all inside, and palace maids carried out basin after basin of bloodied water.
I
am afraid of blood. My steps faltered, and I nearly collapsed, but an elderly eunuch beside me caught me just in time. "Your Highness, please take care of yourself." I trembled and asked, "His Majesty, how is he?" The old eunuch wiped away tears and said, "His Majesty long suspected that the woman sent by the Xiongnu had ulterior motives. That's why he forbade Your Highness from getting too close to her. Tonight, when Xiongnu made her move, His Majesty was prepared. The wound avoided the heart and other vital areas. It is not fatal. But the dagger was coated with a strange poison specially made by the Xiongnu. The entire Imperial Medical Bureau is at a loss. Your Highness, you must stay strong." I couldn't think about anything else. Shaking off the old eunuch's hand, I stumbled into the hall. The emperor lay on the dragon couch, his face pale as paper, his breathing faint. A deep gash cut across his left shoulder, blackened blood seeping from it. The moment he saw me, his eyes suddenly lit up. "Cough, the Empress is here?" His voice was weak, yet he still teased me. "Your New Year's wish came true. You're going to be Empress Dowager now. Are you happy?" I wasn't happy. I felt a little sad. I sniffed and said, Xiuyuan, I don't want to be Empress Dowager anymore. And you're not allowed to die, okay? I didn't want to cry. After all, my ideal was to be a cold, ruthless grand heroine. But tears fell like beads from a broken string. The emperor froze. He anxiously tried to wipe my tears away, but couldn't lift his arm, looking helpless instead. Seeing him in such a pitiful state, my tears flowed even harder. Crying, I said, "That night you brought me gobera and asked if I liked you even a little. I said no at the time. I was just angry and stubborn. I liked him. How could I not? The year I spent in the palace as empress was the happiest year of my life. Walking in the imperial garden in summer, watching the moon from the city wall in autumn, building snowmen in the courtyard on New Year's Eve. On our wedding night, he ignored protocol just to eat gobera with me. When I balanced a vase on my hip as a performance and all the palace attendants stood stunned and silent, he was the only one who applauded enthusiastically, saying, "My empress is amazing." When he would lean against the bed with his collar slightly open, smiling every morning as he said, "Good morning, Empress," the one who fell in love was never just him. The emperor pulled me into his arms, burying his head in my shoulder, his voice trembling. Really?
Don't lie to me."
"I'll truly believe you. I'm not lying. I really like you." "How much?" I thought about it very seriously for a long time, then said, If it's between you and a huge plate of gobera, I'd choose you." The emperor laughed softly and gently kissed away my tears. With a satisfied sigh, he said, "Then it seems you truly do like me. So you're not allowed to die." "Emichem, I won't." The two of us held each other tightly, tears in our eyes. And yet we smiled. 11. The Empress Dowager was right. This is a sweet, pampering romance story. A bad ending simply isn't allowed. That very night, a loud boom echoed through Xiongnu Palace, shaking the entire Forbidden City. I rushed over and saw the Empress Dowager, her hair slightly disheveled, face darkened with intensity, but her eyes sparkled with triumph. She clasped her waist and laughed heartily. "It's done. Finally, it's done." It turned out, the Empress Dowager had been researching explosives from age 20 to 40, and suddenly, her experiment succeeded. The next day, she sent the Grand General, carrying a box of grenades, to the Xiongnu to demand the antidote. At first, the Xiongnu were arrogant, until the Grand General blew up the Xiongnu king into pieces of heroic fragments. The Xiongnu king dead, chaos erupted within their ranks. The once proud Xiongnu envoy collapsed to the ground in fear, begging desperately for mercy, and hastily handed over the antidote with both hands. They even promised never to invade the borders again, to pay tribute annually, and to present themselves at court every year. The Grand General returned triumphantly with the antidote. That day, 10 imperial physicians took turns taking the emperor's pulse, confirming that all traces of poison had been purged. He was fully healed. Hearing this, the emperor lying in bed turned to me. Our eyes met. He raised his gaze and smiled. "Come here, let me hug you." My cheeks flushed. SSS. This scoundrel was acting cute again. I thought that in my heart, but my steps were honest. And just like that, with one tug, he pulled me onto the bed. The emperor lowered his eyes to look at me, his Adam's apple rolling, lips curving slightly. I blushed, shyly twisting. "In broad daylight, what are you?" He feigned surprise. "What are you thinking?" "I just want to hug you." I was annoyed and tried to sit up. Then I glanced up and saw the Empress Dowager. She stood at the doorway, her expression calm, though it was impossible to tell how long she had been there. Her gaze at the emperor and me was both sorrowful and somehow satisfied. The Empress Dowager had come from another world. She knew that explosives involved dissections and had knowledge and skills far beyond this era. Yet she couldn't escape her fate of entering the palace. Forced to share her son with countless women, she had to repeatedly instruct him to stay sharp and untamed. "If you like a girl, love her wholeheartedly. Otherwise, I'll blow you up with explosives." Later, her son survived 5 years of internal strife and 3 years of succession struggles, finally ascending the throne. But as soon as the coronation was over, the new emperor hurried to Xiongnu Palace. The ministers asked me to select a bride, but I already had a girl in my heart. "Mother, I truly love her. I want to spend my life with her, just the two of us. What should I do?"
12.
The Empress Dowager, busy threading beads, slowly smiled. Even she didn't know why. Was it pride in her own guidance, or amusement at her son being hopelessly in love? She set down the skull of the late emperor and spoke patiently. "Son, have I ever told you what a radish post is?" The emperor looked confused and shook his head. She patted his shoulder gently and said seriously, "This radish post is a position reserved specifically for someone. Since you already have a girl you like, tailor the selection criteria just for her so she will be chosen securely. No one can take her away. The selection itself is just a formality to give the minister's face. You must know in your heart who truly matters." The emperor suddenly understood. Thus, the girl from Cao County who loved gobera, whose father was the Shandong governor, standing at 166 meters, entered the palace and became empress. On the day of the imperial wedding, the Empress Dowager looked at her normally cunning son and smiled at the girl like a complete fool. And she smiled quietly to herself. Not bad. The lifelong love she never had, let another girl experience it. 13. No need to get up and bow. The The Empress Dowager waved at the Emperor and me. Everything's fine. I'm going back to the palace. I don't want to be a third wheel and disturb your marital bliss. She sighed wistfully. All my life, I hoped to have someone who truly cared for me. In the end, I didn't have that luck. We science-minded women are doomed to be lonely, sigh. Listening to her, I didn't fully understand, but I felt a strange pang of sadness. My chest filled with a sour ache, my eyes growing wet. Until the Emperor spoke calmly. In that case, those 18 newly recruited dark guards, skilled in martial arts with 8-pack abs, can leave Xinang Palace. The Empress Dowager blushed, hurriedly lifted her skirt, and ran off. The hall was left with just the Emperor and me. I felt shy and instinctively tapped him lightly with my little fists. But I misjudged my strength, and the two of us tumbled off the bed, landing on the carpet. The Persian carpet was as white as snow. My head spun. It was like returning to that snowy year in Cao County. I had been rushing home to eat gobera, dashing through the snow. One slip, and I collided with a young noble wrapped in a fox fur. I fell backward, staring up at him. He covered his head and looked at me. But this time, I didn't run away. The noble didn't freeze or blush silently, as he had years ago. I heard Xiuyuan's smiling voice clearly through the cracks of time. Every word measured, every syllable solemn, like a promise that would never change. Chen Yue'e, my heart belongs to you. I blinked and said confidently, I like you too. The kind of liking that beats even my love for gobera. Xiuyuan chuckled softly, lowered his head, and sincerely kissed my lips. The wind outside stirred lightly, scattering peach blossoms. It was spring again, a perfect season. Wow, can we just take a moment to appreciate how chaotic and hilarious palace life is? Our lazy queen may do nothing, break all the rules, and still somehow survive. Yet she wins the Emperor's heart. It's a wild mix of chaos, comedy, and romance that I can't get enough of. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to share the next adventure with you.